And that's me. Okay. But now we're going to learn a little bit more about how a Torah is made. Okay, so what I need is someone who's on the smart end of things. Someone's like kind of clever. I can ask them some really hard questions. Okay, you look like you're a clever one over there. No, of course you. Okay, what's your name? Rachel. Can I ask you some hard questions? Say yes. Good. Okay. Now, these questions I tend to sometimes ask even university students, and it's a bit on the difficult side. You think you'll manage? Of what you think this is. You can feel it if you're not sure, just to be safe. She's thinking. It's difficult. She got it right. Ladies and gentlemen, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yes, is correct. Oh, there you go. It wasn't that bad. Okay, now that was just a trick question. Okay. Yeah, that's also true. But you have to think about it also. So here comes your next question. I am the what? The so? Good. Last time someone said the so rabbi. But okay, I'm the Sofer. Very good. And this is what? You're doing great. Here comes your next question. Sofer writes Torahs, right? This is a yes or no question. Really easy. Can I, as the Sofer, write a Torah on this piece of paper? Yes or no? Excuse me? What's wrong with my paper? It's okay, it's a little torn. I'll get a new one, whatever. Why can't I write a Torah on a piece of paper? I like my paper. What? It's not right? Shh. What rules? I would like to write a Torah. Can't I write a Torah on the paper? Come on. Okay, we're not, see, Rachel here, is it Rachel, your Hebrew name? Very good. Okay, Rachel's, no, okay. What do you think? Yeah. No, this is paper. Shh. What? Okay, let me ask you this. The truth is, okay, Rachel was right. Well, she's not understanding exactly, but nonetheless, the truth is in this world, you can do anything you want. You can stand on your head and clap with your feet. That's weird, but you could do it if you had to, right? Now, the truth is, with this piece of paper, you can do anything you want. You can put it on the floor and step on it. You can write a Torah on it. But the real question is, if I wrote a Torah on a piece of paper, would it be a kosher Torah? Yes or no? The question is, why not? Why wouldn't it be kosher? Here's your easiest question for the day. Okay? This is the easy one, which I'm sure she's going to get, hopefully, right? Kind of parchment stuff, not on paper. It says it in the... I can't tell you. In the Torah, it doesn't say it there. Ladies and gentlemen, please put off your cell phones. Okay, well. How do we know? You know what? Boys and girls, it doesn't even say it anywhere. You could put your hands down. It doesn't say it anywhere. So how do I know it? Shh. How do I know it? My grandmother made it up? Hey, don't talk about my grandmother. Who made it up? So for whatever reason, okay, I'll be brave today. I'll be brave. And you be quiet. Now you watch, okay? I'm going to take a big, deep breath. It doesn't smell at all. Who would like to smell it? Okay, Rachel's been so good. We're going to let her smell it. Know what it smells like, everyone? Everyone go like this. That's exactly what it smells like. Nothing. It doesn't smell like anything. It has been cleaned, but if the rabbi said, would you please come over here and kiss the Torah? Yeah, right. All right. Okay, so we need to get something a little bit nicer, cleaner. Okay. Shh. So here we have a piece, as you can see, that's looking much better, right? The only problem is, this is cowskin, that's correct. Okay? And this is definitely very bad for allergies. Can you imagine a person's reading from the Torah? No, that would be very embarrassing, okay? So we need to really clean it up completely. Clean it. What's the problem? Shh, I need to have raise of hand, because I can't hear otherwise. Yeah? Well, of course, if there's a hole, you can't write in a place where there's a hole. That's true. But you know what? Here's an interesting question. Does anybody know how long a Torah scroll is supposed to last? You know, 2 years, 5 years, 10, 50. How long should a Torah scroll last? I want to hear what people think. I'm just curious. What do you... 50? You know what the real answer is? The correct answer is that as long as you take care of a Torah scroll should last forever. And some of you knew that. So the truth is, if you have a Torah and the parchment has holes in it, what happens when you have a hole and you pull? What happens to that hole? It tears and it's big, okay? And could you imagine if someone's picking up the Torah and suddenly where there was a hole, it goes, ooh. That would be very nasty if it tore in half, right? So we do not want to use a piece that is not perfectly intact and strong. So here we have a part that, in fact, this parchment can be used to have a Torah written on it. This is the back. This is where the hair, the fur, etc. used to be. It's nice and clean now. As you can see, this is where we write the Torah. I'm not sure if with the glare, if you can see, there's actually lines carved into this. Can you see? Okay, later, if the time allows, I'm going to explain. Very good. Okay, now, back to Rachel over here. Okay, little rehearsal now. I am who? Doing great. And this is what? You're doing wonderful. Now, does anyone know, by the way, what prayer goes in the mezuzah scroll? What? Into the mezuzah case. What is the mezuzah scroll? What prayer is in there? Yeah? The Shema. That's correct. Okay, now, that's a cheap price, okay? And let's get it on here. Okay, so I'll write a mezuzah on the cloth, okay? With a pen. Excuse me? Sorry? Paper. I'm going to write a mezuzah with a pen. What's wrong with my pen? What? There's ink in here. I promise I put ink in here. What's wrong with my pen, Rachel? Shh, guys. What's wrong with my pen? No. Sorry, who's what? What? What was that answer? God spoke to you. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. How do we know? So for whatever reason, you guys were not too sure just yet. Does anyone know from which animal this comes? Hey, cheaters. Okay, well, they got the answer right on the first time. I was supposed to play around a bit. Okay, this, in fact, believe it or not, is a turkey feather. The reason why we use turkey, that their feathers can be used, which like a chicken, like a duck, etc. But the reason why we use turkey feathers is because they happen to be the largest feathers and very strong. So when we cut them down to make a little point at the bottom, we're able to use it. But this time, guys, this time you have to look at me and not only say what I say, but you have to say it the same way I say it. So you have to watch. Here we go. If you don't shake your head, it doesn't work. Let's try this one more time. 1, 2, 3. No, sir. Very good. Now I have a friend of mine that told me that if you shake your head like really hard, it sounds the best. Let's have some fun. One thing. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. No, sir. Whoa. Okay. Okay. Very good. What's the last thing, Rachel? What's the last thing I'm missing? Is we have to buy it from these few places who have by tradition the knowledge of how to make it. And we get it from them and then we dilute it according to our liking. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ingredients that go in here. Now, by the way, this ink is very permanent. Okay? I'm just going to open up just a little bit here. See, if this falls on anything, the carpet, your clothes, it's permanent for a very long time. You see my little marks here? It's going to be on here for a while. Okay? So I have to always be very careful that when you're walking around with ink, whoa! No, just joking. It wasn't open anyway. Here, watch this. Watch this. No, it wasn't open there either. Okay.
Scared me.
You should have. Now, amongst the different ingredients that go in here are things such as copper sulfate, gum arabic. It has different herbs, different ashes from different plants. In fact, it also has honey. And the reason why it has honey, that makes the letters shine. Okay? And then we take the ink, we add it to the parchment with a quill, and we get together a Torah. Does anyone know how to say ink in Hebrew? No, that's the French. You guys know a lot of French. Here we go. In Hebrew, this is called, look here, this is called dio. Can you say it?
Dio.
Now, a little shake of the head. Dio.
Dio.
Very good. Okay, now last rehearsal for Rachel, because she's going to be tested on this right after the program is over.
Oh, Sofer.
Oh, good morning. Okay. Cloth, very good. This is. You're doing great. Okay. Dio. Very good. Okay. And then all together, when you use all the right elements, you're going to get something that's very special. Here is a part of a Torah that I wrote some years ago. As you could see, all the... No, I haven't finished. As you could see, the lines are all very straight, the columns are even, and we take a lot of these different kind of sheets and we sew them together, and then you will get a Torah like you have right over here. Okay. Now I'm going to share with you, just to make things a little bit fair. Okay, what's your name? Aaron. Is that your Hebrew name, Aaron? Okay, Aaron, can I ask you a few other questions? Okay. Now Rachel's sitting there going, shoo. Okay. Okay, Aaron, tell me the following. There was this incredible famous movie star. I can't remember his name, but he was the guy, no. He was the guy that goes up the mountain, comes down with the tablets. That was, sorry, who? Very good, right, Moses, yeah, thank you. Now Moses was an incredible actor, movie actor. He got all the Emmy Awards, everything. He was one of the best stars of all times. Now, he goes up what mountain again? Just remind me. You're doing wonderful. Okay. Sorry, no, try again. One more time. You're doing great. It was 40 days, that's right. But you know what? There was a bit of a problem. He was up there for 40 days. He did not eat. There was no kosher McDonald's. It was not a ski resort. Hey, Dad, get on your skis. What did he do for 40 days, Aaron? Shh, only Aaron. What did he do for 40 days? They got the tablets for 40 days. Hey, God, you're a slow code. Get your act together. 40 days. God goes like this and makes it happen. 40 days, what did he do? He prayed. Hey, God, okay, God, this is day 24. Can I stop this praying? Keep on going. Okay. He's over. What? 40 days? What did he do for so long? Aaron, give one more try. No, but that happened after the 40 days, and God did it for him anyway. So, we're not too sure just yet, right? Here come, how many Torahs, not the tablets, we know there were 2 tablets, but how many Torahs did God give Moses on Mount Sinai? 1 or 3? Shh, sorry? Wonderful. But which 2? No, we said they were not the tablets. So what 2 Torahs did God give Moses on the mountain? By the way, children, this is your Judaism. This is our tradition. So listen, this is really interesting. The first Torah, this is it. This was called the written Torah. God gave Moses the written Torah. Now tell me, Aaron, how many mitzvot, not the 10 commandments, how many overall commandments, mitzvot, are there in their Torah? 612 or 614? Shh. You're doing wonderful. You're getting smarter by the minute. Okay. 613 mitzvot. Very good. In this Torah, there are 613 mitzvot. By the way, this is just a footnote. Does anyone know what the first mitzvah of the Torah is? You can raise your hand if you think I'm going to take 3 answers. If you think you know. What's the first mitzvah of the 613? Give tzedakah. Sorry? Pass? Well, I don't, okay. That's a wonderful mitzvah, but that's not the first one. Last but not least, keep one of them. It's not a keep any of them. Guys, do you know what the first mitzvah of the Torah is? You really think you know it? Okay. That's a wonderful mitzvah, but that's not the first one. The first, the first mitzvah in the Torah is, in fact, believe it or not, to have children, to have a family. It's a first mitzvah from God that all people, obviously Jewish people included, should have. Yeah? Read them. Sorry? Say it. Read what again? Well, that is not a correct answer, but he for surely was the closest. Do you know what the last mitzvah of the Torah is? The last mitzvah is, in fact, to write a Torah. Every man, woman, and child. That's you. Right here. Remember we spoke a minute ago, Rachel, about the mezuzah, right? Do you know what the Torah says about writing a mezuzah? Does anyone know how the words are for the mitzvah of writing a mezuzah in the Torah. All it says is 5 words. You shall write them on your doorposts and on your gates. That's it. How many of you had the rabbi come to your house? Raise your hand. Okay, can you imagine the rabbi comes to your house, knocks on the door, and you open up the door. Oh, hi, Rabbi. Hey, move aside, little kid. Oh, okay. Yeah, he goes, can I help you, Rabbi? Don't worry, I'm going to take care of that. Okay. Right? He takes out this big black marker, he goes to the door, and he starts writing on. Rabbi, what are you doing? Don't worry, I'm writing a mezuzah on the door. I'm writing. There's not enough room on this side. I'm going to go on this side also. It doesn't say anything in the Torah how to write a mezuzah. It says write them on your doorpost. So how do you know it has to be on a parchment and the shema? How do you know it? This is how it happened. I'm going to give you a little example of what happened on Mount Sinai. By the way, Aaron, how old was, okay? He was 80 years old. Absolutely. You were Moses' brother. Absolutely. Now, but listen to this. Do you guys remember what it was like the first time you learned Aleph Bet a few years ago, right? When you were little Aleph on the board, right? And said, children, this is an Aleph. Everyone say Aleph, and you all went like this, right? And the teacher drew a big bet and says, class, this is a bet. Say bet. And you go, right? It took a while. Now Moses is learning Hebrew. It was on day 28. Okay, let's go. So soon? Yeah. Okay. Moses, what? Hurry up. I'm getting dressed. I'm dressed, but okay. What do you want me to do now? You know what we're going to do. We're going to read. Hey, guys, you're getting me nervous. Don't look over my shoulder. Look the other way. Okay? Give me a break. Ooh, sorry. I'll get it. Moses, it's a mezuzah. What's your zuzahs doing on the door anyway? Moses, what? It's a mezuzah. Okay, what is it? A mezuzah is written on cloth. You want me to clap? No clap. Oh, okay. You mean this stuff? Yep. Hold on. It's fake. No, it doesn't. I was just joking. Hey, guys, can I use one of these? No, lightning. Sorry. Hey, God, what do I write in those mezuzahs? I mean, mezuzah. What are you writing in it? The Shema. The Shema. Well, what is that? So in fact, on Mount Sinai, when he read it, it didn't say anything but write it. And God explained to Moses exactly how it had to happen. That it has to be parchment, and it has to be written with a feather, and it has to be written with an ink, and it has to be the Shema. And you know what happened? Moses came down the mountain after 40 days, and he landed up in Phoenix, and he came to Tempe Emanuel, he met a group of kids, and he said, you know what, kids? I would like, you to read the next verse. Me? Yes, you. Okay, I'll try. So she tries to read. What's your name? Hebrew name. Yeah. Say what? Yechezkel. Okay. Yechezkel, read the next verse. Okay. So she tries. She goes, sorry. It's a mezuzah. A mezuzah, yes, who cares? What's a mezuzah? It's a mezuzah. What Jesus is doing under there? It's a mezuzah, right? And we explained to you that it's written on cloth. And you know what? One day, I know this is going to be very scary, but one day you kids, you're going to grow up and you're going to be parents and you're going to have your own kids. Okay? And one day, your kid's going to see you going through a door and like kissing them and say, Daddy, why'd you kiss the doorpost? Because I'm kissing mezuzah. Mezuzah? What's a mezuzah? It's a mezuzah. Mezuzah, yours is a, here we go again, right? Boys and girls, I'm going to teach Le Moshe Misinai, which means these were the laws that God taught Moses on Mount Sinai. In other words, there were those that were written down, and there were those that God taught Moses. Let's say it one more time. Halacha Le Moshe Misinai. I'm going to tell a little story just to illustrate this idea. I'm going to tell a little story just to illustrate this idea. It's yours. You don't even have to go and borrow it from anybody else. It's yours. Thank you all so very much. You are a wonderful group. Thank you. Are there any questions for a few minutes? Do we do?
Is that ink the same recipe as a thousand years ago?
Absolutely. Well, 3.
So did you just basically start at the beginning and go through every letter and column? And
No, in fact, usually I work backwards. But I have worked different sections. Whatever section I am, I work backwards from there. So I've done a lot in the middle, and now I'm working from this end, and I kind of meet at different points until I complete it.
Is that just for variety, or?
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology involved.
Okay.
Because if you start from the beginning and you just see so much to go ahead, it can get a bit, I'll never do it. You know? But this way, when I finish a part, then, oh, this part's done. It's, you know,
Do other people do it differently, or?
yeah, that's up to everyone's.
is that true when you write it?
The first word of this row and this
Is above.
will, well, in this case an olive, but yes, will always be the same on every Torah, right?
Well, that's there's different Kabbalistic ways of writing the Torah, but the most common one today is actually when all the columns begin with, not in the spacing of the lines, but how wide the columns are going to be, and therefore which letters will show up at different places on the column.
So you can basically
Different pointers that give away the age of a Torah. That is one of them.
So given your story about the panel that you carry around, were you told the size and the first word and the last word?
And how the spacing, that there's, you know, there was Russian, there was Polish, there was different.
They were different?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know there are certain passages that look standard or
Yes, yes.
Right here, as a matter of fact.
not? Okay.
There's the Ten Commandments right there.
Wow.
Speaking of it.
So that is standard, so whatever you do, it has to fit in that frame.
Correct.
All right. Is this Bubamized or is this real, that in terms of the end of some columns, you'll see the letters, not the end, but the end of some rows, you'll see the letters stretch or sometimes squished together? Then it's not a kosher Torah.
I wouldn't jump that far.
Okay.
But the person who wrote was missing in his knowledge of what he was doing.
Okay. Rows at a time?
Actually that I've done, and other parts I come that just really lines by line. So then I'll take it very evenly. But now I just kind of bounce around to catch them all as quick as I can.
So are the places where there's spacing, are those basically starts of
With chapters,
verses and chapters?
not necessarily verses, but rather chapters and paragraphs, right?
And those are always...
That's standard also.
And the length of the amount of space is also...
Correct.
What you're asking?
Correct.
And I see some places where there's a very different amount of space. Does that delineate major chapters or something? Or?
Some of them will finish needing space. Some of them will only have a certain amount of letter spacing before the new paragraph. It's all...
But that's basically sort of your artistry. And
No.
That's
That's, you will find every single Torah the same.
It doesn't have Masoretic versionation, or chapterization. Carly asked, why do we always do it in block letters instead of script?
These are, again, I suppose I was not able to get into much of the secrets of the Hebrew letters, but there's a lot of magic to the actual shapes of these letters. And the shapes themselves have meaning, not just from their words meaning, but even in their shapes. And so therefore, every aspect of the shape is actually very crucial to making this Torah kosher.
How would you put
In style.
This is a checklist.
And they had a lot of Kabbalistic terms and knowledge when they were writing their Torahs.
So are there any good references about the kinds of styles and stuff?
References as in
books to read?
information rather than one book that really includes all the secret, the meanings, the styles, etc. So that's one of my life's objectives. Now I'm training, there's 4 people in my home that I'm training. I've trained a lot of Sofer.
How many more days are you going to finish the Torah?
Well, I'm going to be here today and tomorrow, and then I hope to be finished by tomorrow. I hope. But I work many hours. I'll be working here during the nighttime and in the morning.
Don't you ever get bored?
Not at all. But other than that, I could probably keep on going for a long time.
To be here all night long and here all morning.
I'm going to be here for a long time.
You ever spilled the ink on the page?
No, thank God.
No.
My brother almost did yesterday.
Ooh, that's no good.
Are repairs sometimes done by putting a new piece of parchment over?
Okay, not over. Beauty of the script. By keeping the original, just replacing one word.
Yeah, we're not going to be going to stay, we're going home.
I have nothing on it.
Nothing.
So what's a good
Check.
Can you leave a reference list?
Check.
What do you have flip flops? Do you work?
Sorry?
What if you have
Thank you.
what?
You're welcome.
Sometimes there's
Sure.
book club.
I'll introduce you to Ruth someday. And you could be.
Thanks very much.
I don't know whether Ruth will finish her
Thank you very
tonight.
much, we enjoyed your talk and watching your work. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
You even held his attention for a while, which is quite a feat.
Okay, take care, guys.
We may be asking for references on that, too.
Okay, nice meeting you. Take care. I
I'm
got
just
it.
going to be here unobtrusively smack dab in front.
I got it.
What are you doing?
I am right now restoring a very old Torah. It's a Torah of 150 years old, and hopefully when I'm finished, the terminology is I'm going to bring it back to life.
And why do you have to restore this Torah and other Torahs that you work with?
Well, because a Torah for it to be workable, it has to be kosher. The Torah has to work, and the only way a Torah can work is if all the letters are completely 100% intact. And that defines a Torah as being kosher. If even but one letter is broken, cracked, peeled off, that Torah is rendered pasul, not fit for use, until it's been corrected.
And I've watched you do some of the things you do. What are you doing technically, specifically?
Well, right here, right now, I am fixing letters that have either crumbled to the point where they're practically not readable, or they've cracked and peeled off. And I am, in a sense, re-inking them to look like they were when they were written originally.
And you also, some you read, some you erase, it looks like, some you... What kind of different techniques do you use to restore each letter, each word?
Well, right now I'm using my quill with the ink to correct the letters. Sometimes there's excessive amount of ink or smudges that have occurred, and those I will be scratching out. Other times there's tears in the parchment. I'm going to have to put patches on those. And sometimes the seams have come apart between the various sheets of the Torah, and I will be sewing those together. So that tends to be the basics of the Torah restoration that is usually necessary.
In your experience, how bad was this Torah? How bad in need of restoration?
On a scale from 1 to 10, this was probably in the category of a 7. It was really on the bad side. It has been many, many years since this Torah has been maintained. Very often after a Torah has been restored, then Torahs should probably go into a category of just general maintenance, of every few years going through it, fixing the odd letters here and there that need fixing. But when the Torah has not been taken care of for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, it shows.
Do you find that happens a lot?
Less and less, because it was obviously after the war when money was very scarce, and we had a lot of other concerns on the minds of the Jewish people. But now, as the generations have come and gone, people are putting now their attention back to Torahs to restore them. And congregations are finally restoring Torahs, and likewise after that providing a general maintenance for Torahs. So once that happens, Torahs hopefully in general will be in a much better condition over the next 20, 30 years.
Obviously, there's been a lot of people stopping by, asking you questions, watching you. What do you think it means to a congregation to have somebody come in and restore their Torah?
Well, one of the symbolisms of restoring the Torah is that the Torah has been compared to the Jewish soul of our nation. This is the soul of who we are. And just like with the human being, when a person is sick, we don't say, okay, he's sick, flush him down, let's get a new person, but we do everything in our power to bring that person back to life. And even when the person's hooked up to all these, various tubes and all, well, there's life, there's hope. And we constantly do everything in our power to restore the health of that person. Likewise, in the Torah, we don't say, okay, it's broken, let's check it out. That's the trend of our times. When the shoes are broken, we throw them out and get new ones. When the toaster's broken, we throw it out and get a new one. We don't fix things anymore. But Torahs, we don't throw away. We actually try everything in our power to fix it. And like I said earlier, we actually try to bring it back to life. So there's a very great symbolism in taking a Torah that was rendered not kosher and restoring it.
How did you decide that this is what you wanted to learn how to do?
Well, it actually goes back a while. I was living in Israel as a young kid, and I happened to be a little bit of an artist by nature, and I came by, probably at the age of 8 or 9, I came by a sheet, a piece of paper that had on it the letters, the Hebrew letters, as they are written in the Torah. And looking at that sheet, I absolutely just fell in love with the shapes of the Hebrew letters. So I started scribbling them. And while all my friends were just scribbling scribbles, I was always scribbling Hebrew letters. And it was only many years later when I finally became a rabbi, and my friend says, Moshe, why don't you try to be a Sofer? You have the talent of an artist. Try it out. And I tried it, and I was like a fish in water. It came to me very naturally.
And again, just how do you become one? You told that story.
Well, basically, to become a Sofer, there really is only one way, because there is no schools that provide classes to be a Sofer. There are no yeshivot that are yeshivot for being a Sofer. So the only real way to do this is to find another Sofer who has a time of day for you and is willing to teach. And he's obviously had to have been a Sofer that was ordained, and he will teach you, and ultimately you will be ordained as well. And so I found a teacher, a bunch of them in fact, in Israel, and a few in New York that I studied under. And it takes a bunch of years in different stages of, graduations. And I'm a Sofer today. The interesting thing is that very often, if someone is a Sofer, he tends to, at least try, to pass that tradition down to his son. And while my father is a Sofer, in fact, I was my father's teacher. So from our knowledge, we are actually the first in history to be that kind of a partnership. That while my father is my mentor with all the knowledge that I have and general ability to teach and relate to people, but the artistry of a Sofer, I taught my father.
I asked you what the congregation gets out of something like this. What do you personally get out of sitting down with a congregation's Torah and restoring it, bringing it back to life?
Well, the beautiful thing is that I really love what I do. And I love Hebrew letters. I love their shapes. But it's even more interesting when you actually get to read it. And because I'm not always doing everything exactly line by line, row by row, but rather jumping around and sometimes reading them backwards, the interesting stories and lessons and messages that are revealed constantly from reading this Torah is mind-boggling. And it keeps me on my toes. It's just something always to be learned, another little piece which I never saw before, and it's mesmerizing.
So you're conscious of the words that you're writing as you're filling them in the sense.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk a little bit, you explain to the kids about the tools you use, why the quill has to be a certain way, why the paper has to be a certain way. Talk about that.
Well, in brief, without repeating what I said earlier, the basic tools that are used to create a Torah are not prescribed in any of our ancient scripts. In other words, the Torah, where all our Jewish laws come from, there are no rules to writing this Torah. So the way we know how to do this, and this is not the only Jewish law that we have this issue with, but rather many hundreds of Jewish things that we do, while are hinted or mentioned in the Torah, the details of how they're meant to be performed are not. And by tradition, the way we know it all is that when Moses was on the mountain, God explained to him all the meanings of the commandments and the way they're meant to be performed. When it came to Torah and writing this Torah, all it says is that we have to write it. And in teaching Moses, God explained to him that it has to be written with all tools that are organic, natural, from the living, and obviously when it comes to animals, from the kosher animals. In fact, the Kabbalistic terminology for a Torah is hanechal beficha. It has to be something that ultimately, other than the taste, you could be able to eat it, because it's all from organic and kosher ingredients. So that would be the parchment, which is originally animal skin, which is now Torah skin, and it's extremely durable and has the ability to last indefinitely, providing it's maintained. The writing tool is often the quill of a bird, of a kosher bird. Sometimes even bamboo is used, but in most cases the quill, and the quill from a bird. And then the ink, by tradition, once again, the secret of making it is only known to a few, and all scribes worldwide, they purchase it from these few sources that know how to make it, and then we mix it according to our liking. That in brief is the making of a Torah.
Rabbi, anything else that you want to capture on tape? And I got a big shoe in my shot. Not that is. In Hebrew letters, I'm like, erase that. I want to see that. Hebrew letters are good. So it's a great drawing book, but.
Are you training any of your children?
Well, my son right now, he's turning 12, and he has a terrible handwriting. But he's a good boy, and he's young, and he comes in occasionally and sits around and tries it out. We'll see. As I said, this is what we call an art of love. Because if you don't love it, you're absolutely wasting your time doing it.
Yes. I know you had told me earlier that you had also been a school principal in South Africa.
Oh, I've been a lot of things.
Sofer when you were doing that stuff?
Yeah. I've been always acting as Sofer, but I suppose to make a living in Africa, one had to do a lot of things. So I had my own pulpit. I started off as a youth director. I was a youth programmer. I was the vice principal in the Jewish day school, the general bar mitzvah teacher of the city. And I built theme park. I had my hands in a lot of pots.
How many active Sofers would you guess that there are?
Well, Sofers that write Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzot, I would guess around 150 worldwide. Really not many more than that. But many of those are not full-time Sofrim, which means they may be teachers and Sofrim, there'll be a Mashgiach, and they will do it only part-time. From those 150, I don't know if there's 20 or 30 that are qualified to restore Torahs, because that's another whole aspect of talent that has to be developed to restore Torah scrolls.
And is that just part of the artistry of learning how to go over somebody else, or is there also different laws?
No, many, many laws that apply in knowing how to do it, and when you see a mistake, how do you correct it, etc., without now rendering the Torah not kosher just because of the lack of knowledge of how it was supposed to be done.
What if you find a mistake in God's name, like it's starting to crack?
Well, if it's just a cracking, I would actually fill the ink in. If it was broken or in a way that it cannot be fixed, smudged, or I would actually have to peel it out and cut out that part and put a patch and rewrite a few words with God's name again.
Okay, so is this Bubbermeister that I've heard then, that if you're writing a Torah and you make a mistake writing God's name, that whole piece of parchment has to be buried?
Yes and no. The only reason why one would want to do that is if he doesn't want to have any patches. You can definitely do it by way of a patch, but especially when you're writing a new Torah, it's not nice to provide a new Torah with a patch in it.
Right. Okay.
So that's why they would go and replace it. But in restoring a Torah, when it's already an older scroll, there is no reason that you have to go and replace the whole section. You could just patch it and move on.
How long is it going to take you to restore hours-wise a Torah or this Torah? Or is there an average time? Or you just
No, sometimes I can fix a Torah in 3-4 hours. Sometimes it takes me 40-50 hours, And very often, once I'm working, usually after 2-3 hours, my speed practically doubles. once I really get very focused. Now I'm kind of
People are asking
questions and telling. So it's no, so I'm not working as fast. Once I get moving, I mean, I can be, and obviously there's no interruption, so I'm not getting phone calls. My kids are not jumping around. I can do in one day what at home in my studio can probably take me 2 weeks. So I really am very heavily focused when I'm working, you know, with no interruptions.
Are there times when you're working on a Torah and you find out that there's a mistake in the Torah?
It's happened before, and usually those are somewhat shocking when it does happen. You know, because you're looking at it once and you're looking at it twice, say, no, this is not right. This is, and then you have to pull out another chumash to verify it, and then you find out, whoops, this is, yeah. And I have found those before. And yeah.
Did you find any in this Torah?
As I like to say, so far, so good.
Oh, yeah. Just in terms of technique, it appears to me that you are using always the same part of the quilt, regardless of how thick or how thin the letter is. Is that just because of the angle I'm looking at you at?
Well, no, I'm actually bending the quilt very lightly to create different size of lines.
So you're getting ready to go. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Okay. Wait, let me just...
I'm going outside.
Okay, we'll be ready in a few minutes. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
She's asked all of hers.
Yeah.
Any more?
One of the interesting things that, actually I made a sermon about this one Rosh Hashanah, is that the tendency is to restore Torah backwards, just from the mere fact that you don't smear. Because if I would have worked this and then worked here, my hand would smear it. So I'm always reading the story backwards. So one Rosh Hashanah I gave a sermon, because in fact, what are we doing on Rosh Hashanah? We are reading our story backwards. We know the end of the story, right? So we're looking back over a whole year of our actions, the good, the bad, the ugly, the fun, right? And we analyze it, right? And we hope that we had more better than not. And now we discuss it and we decide what was the better parts, what were things we should have corrected. So I said, in a sense, that is really the way a Torah is when it's being restored. That's how I read it. And the messages that when you're reading the story of the brothers and you read the end of it, now the lessons that come through from reading and knowing the end part before the beginning is fascinating. It's knowing the, you know, could you imagine we would start our day knowing how it's going to end already? You know, and all the, you know, pit holes on the way, you'd say, oh, don't go there, I know how to avoid it because I already seen it before. So that's, you know, it's a very, very powerful lesson of being able to read the story backwards. And the difference, every time one finds something else.
Now, if you were left-handed, would you do it forward?
Well, the funny thing is that I do not know of a left-handed Sofer. Because the flow of the Hebrew letters would probably just not work with a left-handed.
See, I'm left-handed, that's probably why I had a hard time. My fault.
Yeah. Now you can go back to your teacher and says, for all those years.
One more thing that I have, I just want you to introduce yourself, you know, your name and what you do.
Sure.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, my name, you want me to look at the camera?
No,
or?
you can just keep writing, or you can look up and then keep writing, whatever's comfortable.
Okay, well, hello everyone. Okay, well, I am Rabbi Moshe Druin. I reside and live in North Miami Beach in Florida. I am married with 8 children, Kainahara. It's 7 girls and a boy. And I've been a Sofer now for 22 years, and I travel all over the world, for that matter, restoring Torahs, educating congregations, and exciting people to the wonders of the Hebrew letters.
What's one of your favorite Torah teachings?
Sorry?
What's one of your favorite Torah teachings?
Well, you've heard a whole bunch of them today. I would only be telling you the things that I love. I think the fact that the ones that actually I always giggle about is that, and it's a classical thing, that the word letters in Hebrew is ot, and yet the word ot translated into English does not mean a letter. It's translated as the word sign, wonders, magic. And the first time, and I mean, just to go back, always in Judaism, whenever you have a question, the way to resolve it is you go into the Torah to see the first time that it was mentioned, and from there you analyze it. So the first time that the word ot appears in the Torah, well, ot meaning letter, but in fact it's talking about the 10 plagues. And in the 10 plagues, it says that, you know, God threw at the Egyptians otot, he threw letters at them. Watch out, there comes a flying tough duck. I just always get, you know, and God says they don't listen to the first letter, they'll listen to the second letter. I mean, what was going on here? But these letters were really part of the magic.
So that was the problem.
So there's one of my favorites. If you don't be careful, I'm going to throw a letter at you.
If it's in English, you're getting 26 instead of 22.
Yeah. Yeah, but the ones that have effect and really can make a dent are the Hebrew letters.
Good. I just want to get some other shots when we're done with questions.
Are there other questions we should ask?
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to say that we didn't ask?
I don't know. Well, I think the most important thing is that Torahs, once they've been restored, is that they should be maintained. That is just very crucial. And I think it's also important to note that while the Torah obviously is the holiest object, very close behind are the two other things that a Sofer writes, and those are tefillin and mezuzahs. And we spoke about mezuzahs already, and God willing we will have a meeting tomorrow about trying to upgrade the level of mezuzahs in the town, because there's a lot of fake mezuzahs out there and a lot of counterfeit ones floating around. And when we put a mezuzah on the door, that is meant to be not just a blessing on the house, but a sign that this is a Jewish home. And once again, for it to work, it has to be kosher. An interesting way, by the way, of maintaining a Torah. My father actually coined the phrase for this particular purpose, and is to actually roll the Torahs constantly, even the ones that are not commonly being used. And the program to do it, he's called the Holy Rollers. And the idea really is to roll Torahs once a month from one end to the other. And the extra air that the Torah gets will actually help to sustain a Torah for many, many more years, just from the mere fact that it was rolled and used. So even the ones that might be the heavier ones that you have that we tend not to open up as much, if not every month, every other month, to have a group of people that open it up and roll it from one end to the other. And that will surely add, even in its condition as they are, which I know they also need work, but still, it would help at least slow down a bit the process of the crumbling just by getting that air and moisture into the parchment.
And that would be true for the Torah that we use regularly too.
Absolutely. Well, again, obviously the one that you're using regularly is going to be used, but if you think of it, each end is only going to be opened up once.
Right.
So therefore, if not every month, once again, every 2-3 months, just to have a general roll through is very important for a Torah.
Being here in the desert.
Sorry?
Being here in the desert,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything special we should be doing in terms of maintaining a Torah? Or is the dryness actually very good?
Well, the dryness is good, but sometimes too much can dry it out, and that's, again, where the crumbling can take place. I actually did not have a chance yet to look at your own Kodesh, but sometimes it may be worth it to even add a little bit of a humidifier, just to have a little bit more humidity inside. I'll look at that again tomorrow and tell you what I think.
Okay.
Kind of like a Torah doctor.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a Torah doctor.
Prescriptions.
Yep.
Get some other shots.
Okay.
I'm going to take about 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Then I'll be done.
Okay. And you found where to eat and what to eat and get her home.
All right. We'll see you later.
Justin, thank you very much. I really appreciate you doing this.
I'm glad
I'm glad you thought of it. Yeah, that was a great idea. We might, if we can, we might think of having you do this every so often for other projects.
Oh, that'd be fine.
Okay.
It's one of the ways I can volunteer my services. I have no problem with that.
Fantastic. All right. Yes. Just like you guys leave, you know, if you're gone, not lock everything up.
We do new Torahs as well, and a lot of programs going on, and you know, ceremonies and things like that.
Like you're just going over some parts that have faded a little.
Faded, peeling, cracking, crumbling, all of the above.
How long does it take for the ink to dry?
4 or 5 minutes. Fairly quick.
Because I'm watching where you're putting it.